That actually brings me to the introduction of our first keynote speaker of WDSX. His name is Gary Ware. That's right. A lot of you guys know Gary already, been part of the community for many years. He's been on this stage. He has led very popular academies. He's led meetups. He's also an improviser, a digital marketer. He has a company. It's called Breakthrough Play. Sorry, I'm not sure what's happening here. He has a company called Breakthrough Play. He does a bunch of things. Usually our technical guys are really good, so we'll sort this out in just a second.
The summit for world domination.
Wait, what?
It is I, Lord Darth Vader. The Empire needs you. This so-called playful rebel alliance has been growing in numbers, and the Emperor is requesting the aid of you, his people, to help search and destroy these pockets of rebel scum. I have tracked a rogue Jedi Master to these coordinates. Have you seen him?
That's Gary Ware. You guys, he's gonna be right here. I'm just introducing him, actually.
Hand him over to me immediately.
He's going to be speaking right now, so maybe after lunch. I can't.
I find your lack of faith
Can we do something about this, guys?
You are under arrest for treason.
Okay. I've been arrested before, but not for treason, so I'm really not that worried, actually. What? Guys, can I get some help from the group?
Chris Gillibo, you are under arrest for treason.
Okay.
You will be coming with us.
I have a choice.
Let him go.
It's the rogue Jedi. Let's get him.
Wow. Good morning, WDS. Well, Darth Vader is probably pretty pissed and will be back soon, so I need to make this quick. And Darth Vader is a metaphor for the conventional life that is waiting for you on Monday. Also, Darth Vader represents the patriarchy, the status quo, and the U.S. Supreme Court that doesn't know what the F they are talking about. Now, if you truly want to live a remarkable life, it's going to require you to shift your thinking and unlock a part of you that's probably been dormant for some time. And I'm going to show you the way. Are you ready? Yeah. All right. Before we get started, I think it's important to do a little shimmy. Do a little shimmy with me. All right, cool. So we're going to get started with a riddle. So shout it out if you know the answer. Fred and Mark were born on the exact same day, at the exact same time, at the exact same hour, to the same mother, but they're not twins. Seriously? Well, I did say shout out the answer. So for those of you who in your head were thinking clones, who were thinking twins, don't feel bad, because yes, they were triplets. That's the answer. Most people they get that wrong. But of course, this is WDS where we are exceptional, so I'm not surprised that you all got that so quickly. So thank you so much for saying triplets. I appreciate that. See, here's the thing. We have been conditioned to think very linearly. We all know what triplets are, but for some reason, our brain's like, twins, what is this? And we get stumped. And there's been a disturbance in the force where we have been called to do a lot. We have more technology than ever before, but yet we feel so alone. Can anyone relate? We're going through an experience where we're feeling burnt out, exhausted. But why? Why is that? We should, in theory, be having more time to do the things that bring us joy. And it's because we are seeing the world as a proving ground. A proving ground where we feel like we have to prove to ourselves that we are worthy, prove to other people that we can do it. And when you see the world as a proving ground, you see the people around you as competitors. Now, this mindset, this way of being, has worked in the past, but it's not sustainable. This is why we lead to burnout. Now, there is another way of seeing the world, and that is as a playground of possibilities. And when you see the world as a playground of possibilities, you see challenges and things in your way as an opportunity for growth. You see the people around you as playmates, people to collaborate with. However, when you've been told that the P word, play, is childish, a waste of time, you feel guilty. Now, I have this belief that we are all born with superpowers, gifts that will help us be the best versions of ourselves. However, when we're younger, we don't really know how to use these gifts, and they probably get us in a little bit of trouble, if we're honest. And then we learn to hide them. So I'm going to share my story and how I, at one point, saw the world as a playground and shifted to seeing it as a proving ground, and the thing that unlocked it for me. And as I'm telling you this story, I want you to reflect and think about, what is your gift? And then I will teach you how to unlock that gift so that when you leave here, you can go on and live that remarkable life despite the Darth Vaders out there that want you to comply, that want you to follow the rules to a T and just be a clone. So, if we go back in time, I was that kid that could never take anything seriously. My parents hated it because anytime they took a photo of me, I would never have a regular smile. And teachers, oh my gosh, I would be that kid in class that, I learned all the basic subjects. But on my report card, he's a chatterbox. He talks a lot. When the teacher would give us assignments, I would be that one that is saying, hey, are we going to do this? I would gather the group We would collaborate. And my parents, God bless them, all they wanted is their son to finish school, get a degree, get a good job so he can move the hell out of the house. Let's just be honest. And so my dad would sit me down. And just so you know where my dad's coming from, my dad grew up in rural Oklahoma where you didn't goof off. They were very serious there. Matter of fact, for fun, when we would go visit my grandma, we would do yard work. So my dad would sit me down and he said, look, I know that you like to play, you like to goof off, but there is a time and place for that. You get your work done, then you can play. Get your work done, then you can play. However, I just felt this need to just, sort of interact. And there was this one time, and I'll tell you the story in a moment, but the way that my family, and maybe some of you can relate to this, sort of got that lesson across was with a belt. Now, that's not something that I condone, but it is definitely, all that my parents knew. And so I'm at school. It's raining. There's puddles everywhere. Somehow, I don't even know how this happened. Somehow I convinced my whole class to go jumping through the puddles. And we come back after recess soaked. The teacher is livid. She calls my parents, calls my dad specifically, and for him to come and get me because I had no more clean clothes because I've probably done it again. And so all of the clean clothes that they have stored are gone. So my dad comes home from his hourly job. He's pissed. He takes me home to get changed, takes me back to school, and he says, I will deal with you when I get home. I knew what that meant. So after school, I go home and I hide every single belt. I'm like, if he can't find a belt, I can't get a spanking, so that's a win, right? Creativity. My dad comes home and he goes to find his trusty belt and it's missing. Gary, where's the belt? I don't know. It makes him so bad that I get a spanking with his hand. And he gets angry. And I have been spanked the worst that I can ever think. And after it was over, my dad was shaking. He realized that he crossed the line. And in that moment, I told myself that how I show up naturally is not the way to go. So I started to try to fit in. So I went from being this sort of goofy guy to what do I need to do to just get by? And maybe some of you can relate to that. I graduate and I get into my career. And the interesting thing is every job that I started as play. I saw my job as a playground. I went to work with excitement. Any sort of obstacle that showed up, I saw it as a chance to get better. But just as quickly as I saw it as play, it went to seeing the world as a proving ground. Because my dad's voice would show up. Gary, you can only play when your work is complete. And that led to stress, overwork, burnout. However, I thought that's just how it's supposed to be, right? When you grow up, you play maybe on the weekends, vacation. But those vacations didn't really show up because I was scared to take them. Because I thought that if I took a vacation and I got behind, the next person would take my job. And it's very interesting. I was working for a large digital marketing organization, and we goofed off a lot, but we got a lot of work done. And as the company grew up, they changed their values. We had all of them lined up on the wall. And they got everyone in the main conference room, and they were talking about how we're growing up. And one of our values was fun. And they took that down. And they replaced it with excellence. And unbeknownst to them, that shifted the whole culture of the company. 3 years into that, I found myself as a director. And I had a team of my own. And it's very ironic looking back on this now as a way to continue to progress myself in my career. I was looking to do anything that would make me competitive. And I took an improv class. And it was recommended to me by a mentor of mine, and I walked into that theater. And there were 15 other people, just like me, that didn't know what was going to go on. But for 2 hours, we just played. And it reminded me of those days when I was younger and I was goofing off. And something awoke inside of my body because that week right after that class was the best week I've had in a long time. Now, the work was still the same. I was starting to change. On Sundays, I was looking forward to improv. And that was the catalyst that led me to this stage right now. Now, you might be thinking improv is not my jam. It's not for everyone. But for me, it reminded me of how I like to be a storyteller, how I like to be silly. And then as I started to do more research on how to awaken that inner child, I realized that you need to find the thing that used to bring you joy when you were a child and harness that. And so, I'm going to share with you the path to becoming more of a playful person. The path to seeing the world as a playground instead of a proving ground. Now, this path is not easy. Matter of fact, you're going to get a lot of resistance from yourself because it's not going to feel right. It's not going to feel natural. And as a way to understand what this feels like, I'd like to invite all of you to cross your arms in a way that feels normal and natural. All right, that feels good, right? That is you right now. Now, notice what hand is on top and what hand's on bottom. Now cross it the opposite way. And some of you are having a challenge, I get it, it's okay. Some of you, this feels awkward, this feels uncomfortable. You want to go back to the way it was, right? Go ahead, go back to normal. Now try it again, go back to the other way. All right, cool, you can put your arms down, it's all good. That awkwardness, that dissonance is what's going to show up. And that's why you have to rebel against that way of thinking. And so the path, there are a few steps in this path. And the first step is to give yourself permission. And in just a moment, you're going to get some permission slips. I invite you to sign them. I invite you to date them. That is your commitment to yourself. That you are going to commit to working on unlocking that playfulness. That is your contract that says that you matter. And doing the things that will give you the energy to be the best version of yourself is more important than just working till you get stressed out. So that's step number one. Step number two, I like to invite you to think about what were the things when you were young that brings you joy. I told you my story about how I love to do pranks, and I was a big storyteller. A good friend of mine, during the pandemic, the thing that brought her joy was traveling. However, once the pandemic happened, traveling wasn't an option. And she replaced that with more work. And so we sat down and we did this activity where she was looking back. And it was interesting because she totally forgot about this until this moment when she brought her attention to it. The thing that she loved to do was play with dolls. And then she looked at me and she said, "Gary, I'm not going to go buy a Barbie." I said, "I'm not asking you to buy a Barbie." We looked at it and we found that the essence of why she loved playing with Barbies as a child was she loved nurturing them. So I asked her, I said, "Is there something else that you can nurture for fun, for no reason other than just to do it?" And then she was silent. And then she thought and she said, "Well, I've always wanted to have some plants." I said, "Okay, how about we do that?" And then she looked at me and she said, "I've never kept a plant alive ever." I said, "Okay, well, imagine that you just did it just to do it and there's no expectations. Matter of fact, let's just start with a succulent." She said, "I've killed succulents." I was like, "All right, well, it's okay. Let's try again." And so she got a succulent. However, when she started seeing it through the lens of a playground, of just something to do, it started bringing joy to her life. She started replacing that overwork with research on how to take care of succulents. And I'm happy to report that 2 years later, she has over 150 plants in her house. She is one of those types of people. And so, what is it for you? Take a moment, write it down. What is the essence of the thing that brings you joy? And how can you start to add it to your life in little increments? And that brings me to the third step. It's a practice. When you see the world as a playground, it's challenging because there are so many areas that are trying to make you go back to how things were. And so on the back of those permission slips are some rebellious actions that you can do daily. However, I'm going to focus on one very specific one. And this is the one where I start to get a lot of groans. However, because it's challenging to do something that brings you joy. We're busy. You might feel guilty. You might feel like it's not the right time. Here's the thing. When you allow yourself to do something that brings you joy, that is the most rebellious action you can do. Because the people that don't want you to thrive, they don't want you to feel joy. When you do something and make space for something that brings you joy, you essentially you power up. You will start to experience the neurochemicals in your body that will give you the ability to be more creative, allow you to connect on a deeper level, and feel like you belong. You will be unlocking that inner child that wants to come out and play. Now, I've said a lot of things, and you probably have some notes. Here's the challenge. It's not that easy. There's still one thing that you need to address. And before we do this really quick activity, I'm going to tell you one more story. So I'm known as the play guy, the guy that brings play to any situation and can help people be more confident and creative. And I'm still working on this. I have a 5-year-old, and my son Garrett is like me times 3 when I was younger. And it's interesting because my mom always said, when you get older and have a kid, he's going to be 3 times worse than you. And I didn't get it. And there was a moment during the pandemic when I found myself back in that proving ground, and I was working. And he came into my office and he says, "Dada, can we play now?" And I looked at him and I said, "I'll play in a minute." And he said, "That's what you said last time." And it was a reminder that I still have a lot of work to do. And so we're going to do an activity where you're going to get a chance to have a conversation with yourself. So I'd like to invite you, if you're open to this, to take out your phone and open the front-facing camera so that you can see yourself. And with the camera open, as you're looking at yourself, take a moment to think of that inner child that may have been locked away for quite some time. Invite them to come out and play. Let them know that you have their back. Tell them that whatever happened in the past is in the past. And you're going to do whatever it takes to help them stay whole. As you look into your eyes or into the photo of yourself, realize that you're stronger than what you give yourself credit for. Realize that you have the strength to do amazing things. Whatever happened, happened. But you have the ability to make a choice. Maybe this is the weekend where you start to make that shift. When you look back, a month from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, and you're on that path, and it's not going to be easy, you realize that this is the moment that you made that commitment. You are a beautiful human being. And there are so many people that want to see you succeed. Okay. You can put away your phones. It's not going to be easy. And hopefully by hearing my story and the other stories that I shared, that you realize that you are perfect just the way that you are. And I want to leave you with a phrase. I found this when I was at Target, and I felt this was very fitting, very fitting for WDS. And it's this: finding yourself is not really how it works. You aren't a $10 bill in last winter's coat's pocket. You're also not lost. Your true self is right there, buried under cultural conditioning, other people's opinions, and inaccurate conclusions you drew as a kid that became your beliefs about who you are. Finding yourself is actually returning to yourself, an unlearning, an excavation, a remembering who you were before the world got its hands on you. And so, in closing, yes, there will be times when you need to see the world as a proving ground. But it's my hope that you would take time to realize that the world is just a playground full of possibilities. And if you need help, I have your back. Matter of fact, if you need a playbook, I wrote one. It is my very first book. It will be out in September, and you can pre-order it right now. And it's my hope that you will use it to spread good in the world, and more importantly, be the best version of yourself. Thank you.